terremoto en la Guaira.
On the evening of June 24th, 2026, Venezuela was struck by one of the most catastrophic seismic events in its contemporary history. Two powerful earthquakes, separated by just 40 seconds, unleashed devastation across the country's northern region, collapsing structures in the capital Caracas and triggering fears of mass casualties on a scale rarely witnessed in South America.
Venezuela was struck by an extraordinary sequence of two powerful earthquakes measuring 7.
The first earthquake, registering a magnitude of 7.2, struck at approximately 6:04 in the evening local time, with its epicenter situated near San Felipe, the capital of Yaracuy state, roughly 160 kilometers west of Caracas. The tremor originated at a depth of nearly 22 kilometers, sending violent shaking radiating outward across densely populated cities and towns. Before residents could fully comprehend what was happening, a second and even more powerful quake struck. Magnitude 7.5, centered just southeast of the town of Yuma, also in Yaracuy state, at a shallower depth of only 10 kilometers. The principal shock has been described as the largest earthquake ever documented in Venezuela, and the strongest the country has experienced in more than 125 years. The timing made the disaster all the more devastating. Wednesday was a public holiday in Venezuela, commemorating a decisive military triumph in 1821 that secured the country's independence from Spain. Millions of people were at home, gathered with their families or attending public events, when the ground beneath them began to shake. In Caracas alone, residents depicted a scene of complete chaos. Buildings swayed violently from side to side. Walls fractured and gave way.
Hey guys, Daniel here with Mario's team, and more footage coming out of Venezuela following the 7.1 magnitude earthquake from earlier today. Now, this is from an airport.
Dust columns rose above neighborhoods where restaurants and businesses were still occupied from the holiday afternoon. People fled into the streets, many of them barefoot, clutching children and pets, staring in disbelief as entire building facades crumbled before their eyes, exposing the interiors of apartments and offices to the open air. Emergency responders mobilized immediately across the country. In the municipality of Trujillo in eastern Caracas, more than 500 personnel were deployed to conduct search and rescue operations. Gas supplies were shut off as a precaution across multiple districts. Large sections of the capital lost both electrical power and cell phone signal, severing communication for thousands of families, including many of the over 7 to 12 million Venezuelans who had emigrated abroad during years of economic turmoil, desperately attempting to reach their relatives back home. The neighborhoods of Los Palos Grandes and Altamira in Caracas were identified by Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello as among the worst affected areas, with what he described as alarming situations of collapsed homes and buildings. In one unspecified area of southeastern Caracas, reports indicated that nearly all high-rise structures in the vicinity were either heavily damaged or had completely collapsed. A bank building in the capital also came down. Emergency vehicles struggled to navigate streets blocked by rubble, downed electric poles, and fallen debris. Authorities urged motorists to clear the roads immediately to allow ambulances and rescue teams through. Simon Bolivar International Airport in Caracas sustained significant damage and was shut down, with all arriving and departing flights suspended. Video footage circulating on social media showed debris falling inside the terminal and passengers scrambling for safety. Hospitals moved swiftly to expand capacity, with staff at Hospital de Clínicas in Caracas asked to double their night shifts to handle the influx of injured patients. Footage from inside the hospital showed darkened corridors with ceiling panels hanging loose and plaster scattered across the floors. Building collapses were also reported in the states of Trujillo, Carabobo, Aragua and Miranda, and in the coastal city of La Guaira, situated near the capital. Acting Venezuelan President Delcy Rodriguez addressed the nation in a state emergency declaration, confirming that fatalities had already occurred. She announced that hundreds of emergency workers were actively engaged in rescue operations and called for national unity in the face of the disaster. Interior Minister Cabello separately urged all residents to remain outside their buildings, warning that the aftershocks following an event of this magnitude were fully capable of bringing down structures already weakened by the main quakes. Within just 2 hours of the main shock, 6 aftershocks had already been felt across Caracas. Geologically, the disaster unfolded within a triangular zone bounded by 3 major strike-slip fault systems: the Bocanó Fault to the south, the Oca-Oncon Fault to the north, and the Bucaramanga-Santa Marta Fault to the west. The Bocanó-El Pilar Fault System, a 1,300-kilometre-long network of right lateral faults running along Venezuela's entire northern coast, lies at the tectonic boundary where the Caribbean plate meets the South American plate. The Caribbean plate's eastward movement against the South American plate produces an oblique collision zone prone to exactly this type of catastrophic seismic event. The Bocanó Fault itself has generated devastating earthquakes in the past, with major events recorded in 1610 and 1894. Mi mamá, weón! Mi mamá! Seismologists noted that powerful earthquakes are statistically uncommon in Venezuela compared to Pacific-facing nations like Chile or Mexico, which makes this event all the more unexpected for a population unaccustomed to seismic activity on this scale. The shaking was felt far beyond Venezuela's borders. In neighboring Colombia, residents in the Caribbean and northeastern regions reported sensing the tremors, though no injuries or damage were recorded there. Buildings in the Brazilian Amazon cities of Manaus, Belém, and Macapa were evacuated as a precaution after the quakes were felt across the region. The United States pledged immediate support with search and rescue teams, medical personnel, and humanitarian supplies announced for deployment to Venezuela. In the critical first hours and days following the disaster, the U.S. Embassy in Caracas confirmed that all its staff had been accounted for and urged American citizens in the country to seek secure shelter and stay away from damaged structures. Witnesses across Caracas described the experience in terms that underscored just how unprecedented this event felt, even to those who had lived through previous disasters.